Welcome to the Here We Go podcast. I am your host Trent Ging. That is Colin Phillips as usual. Colin, welcome. How you doing today?
Hey, not too bad, man. It's a very exciting game we got looking forward to. So very excited to talk about it a little bit.
There's a potential this is going to be the first, I think, real test that you could say for our team. It's going to be quite an interesting game. I think a lot is going to ride on the health of certain players in this matchup, which is actually kind of where I want to start with this thing. So I actually want to kind of dive into the injuries a little bit. So I think the biggest story right now it has got to be Justin Herbert. What is your thoughts so far? A guy who's been very limited. He's listed as limited, but I think he's been very limited in practice this week, and I'm not sure he's playing. What do you think?
Well, I mean, like I said on Wednesday, I mean, I kind of hope he does play because I truly, legitimately want this not only the defense but also the offense to be put to a test here. And again, honestly, I just want to play because I don't want to have another game where I'm falling asleep in the third quarter. But I mean, from what it looks like, I don't think so, and I think it would be stupid to play. You're already 2-0. You're going against a really good, really physical defense. If I'm the Chargers, I'm like not saying this is a fan, but if I am the Chargers, I really am. I'm sitting him this game.
Yeah, I found the official chart here. He was did not participate Wednesday, limited Thursday, did not participate Friday, and they have him officially listed as questionable. This is the actual official injury report that I pulled here. You've got to think there's a good chance he's not playing in this game, right? I mean, two
Yeah,
DNPs and then a limited on Thursday, like that does not lend itself to say this guy's going to be the starting quarterback come Sunday.
right, right.
I think it obviously plays to our favor. I'm going to read through a few other injury reports. If you're okay with going through some of the injury report here, I'm going to go through the Chargers first. Just get
Yeah,
some of your thoughts on that. So Joey Bosa is another big name that's on this hip
he's always on
injury.
the injury report.
Yeah, limited, full on Friday. So I think it's pretty safe to say he's playing Sunday. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
Junior Colson, he's already out. Bud Dupree questionable. DNP limited. That's another one. We may or may not see the return of Bud Dupree here in Pittsburgh in a Charger uniform, right? Hayden Hurst is another one, but he was limited full with an ankle. Um, I imagine he's playing. He's a tight end. Tight ends tend to pop up on these lists quite often with just bumps and bruises and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, and he's their tight end one. He's really the only tight end on that roster that's worth a damn. So I think he'll play too.
I do too. I found this one interesting because I was not aware of this. Joshua Palmer, who's a guy
Really?
who can be on the DNP questionable for the game in the last 3 days. So that kind of intrigued me a little bit because I think he's a guy who has grown in this offense. You saw when Keenan Allen and Mike Williams was out last year, he stepped up pretty big a couple weeks. Um, I did not even know he was on the injury report until I pulled this up and I saw that. So I thought that was quite intriguing. I think it's a bigger impact than maybe Steeler fans are going to realize. What do you think?
Oh, I 100% agree. I mean, like the Chargers kind of went into the season as kind of a very laughable wide receiver room with Quentin Johnson, and then they drafted Lad McConkey in the second. And then at those were their three receivers. I mean, after that, they're probably looking to their punt returner, Demario Davis, who's all of Calvin Austin's size.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's it. I mean, they were already a laughing stock to begin with. Now they're thinner with probably, I would say, their wide receiver two being out here. That's definitely a huge advantage for Pittsburgh, and it's really nice because instead of having to see probably McConkey in the slot, Beanie Bishop only has to deal with Demario Davis now or something like that. So it kind of matchup wise, it's always advantageous for things like that.
Yep. Steelers. I'm going to go through the Steelers chart here real quick too. Troy Falatanu was the guy who popped up obviously today. He was limited, officially listed as questionable. From everything I've seen, it sounds like Broderick Jones is going to start at right tackle. That is a guy who had the knee injury going in. He played the game. He looked great. We talked about that on Wednesday. And then all of a sudden on Friday, this thing pops up as being an issue again. That concern you at all that all of a sudden it just comes back out of nowhere?
Yeah, I mean, like, so going into the draft this year, one of Fautanu's things was, yeah, he's got a lingering knee issue. And then now we're looking at his second injury since camp. Like, I'm not going to hit the panic button quite yet, but I mean, it's fair to say he's an injury concern. Yes. And it's like we're kind of sitting here now in a position where Dan Moore is obviously given the job at left tackle. Broderick Jones is clear, like in my opinion, he's clearly injured. I mean, dude, Christ, I mean, I'm looking at this game, I'm watching it and looking at the images and whatnot. Dude, his whole arm is wrapped and or braced. He's got an elbow brace, a wrist brace, a bicep wrap, an elbow wrap, a forearm wrap. I mean, the dude's entire right arm is covered in something protective. Like I think that speaks volumes. And then again, you know, we have a rookie right tackle who, I don't want to use the word injury prone, but is kind of at this point starting to become injury prone. So it's a really awkward spot to be in. If Broderick's injury is serious, I mean, does that mean we have to trot out Dylan Cook mid game?
He's not there. He's on IR.
Even better. So what? We're looking at Spencer Anderson, maybe.
Flipping
I mean,
out.
This could be a legitimate concern if Fautanu keeps pulling the bullshit. Me personally. Yeah. I said it on Twitter today. He needs to pull his damn pants up. This is unacceptable. He's a first-round rookie and it's second damn injury since camp. He needs to pull his damn pants up or something. Because, I mean, I'm very frustrated with the situation.
Yeah. Now, I did see this. I saw Alan Saunders post a video the other day that Broderick Jones has lost a lot of that padding in braces. And he went to a different brace on that arm now, so it is no longer that big heavy brace that he complained about being a big issue for him. So I think that at least gives, maybe it could be false hope, but it's some hope that maybe some of these issues that he's had, you know, are going to be a little bit better. But Fautanu, I hope this is just something that's like the word I saw used was tweaked, which, I mean, that could be anything. So, but hopefully something where he's definitely dressing and maybe just being in that reserve role, because we don't have depth there. And you're right. I think it's Spencer Anderson bumping outside, and then you're bringing Mason McCormick in and having another rookie on this offensive line to start. So that would be probably disastrous for a line trying to find their footing here.
Well, yeah, and absolutely. I mean, and also, I mean, if it's just tweaked, he just takes a rest day. He doesn't get an MRI for a tweak. That's why I called bullshit to Allen and Faribault and all of them. I was like, this ain't a tweak. If I tweaked my thumb playing golf, I'm not going to go get an MRI for it. I'm going to take a week off, right? Like that's right. It just didn't make much sense to me. And it's, again, I'm very infuriated with the situation. Between him and Broderick, man, one of you two sack up. One of you two, just one of you two sack up. That's all there is to say.
We got Michael Pruitt, DNP. He's already listed out. Isaac Seumalo, obviously another guy he's already listed out. Yeah. Roman Wilson, limited full. So 2 full days in a row for Roman Wilson.
His debut.
So
yeah.
I think we're about to see the debut. He's going to get a helmet here.
Yep.
Russ, limited, questionable, which I don't think anybody in
Fields was going to play anyway.
Yeah. So, anything else that you kind of had to? I just kind of wanted to cover the injuries because it seems to be piling up, man. This has been a very injury-prone season already for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've been battling kind of through it a little bit. Thank God none of it's been on the defensive side of the football. But
better knock on wood.
It's just, man, I for a team that seems to have so much of this season playing into their hands right now, the injuries, you hope, is going to slow down here sooner than later, right?
You hope. I mean,
yeah, it's crazy. So the next thing I kind of wanted to break down, because we now that we know some of the injuries and we can probably kind of guess who's playing and who's not, I wanted to kind of go through position by position and maybe do some who's got the advantage type thing.
Yeah, positional advantage.
So let's start with, and I'm looking at this not like Justin Herbert versus Justin Fields, but maybe looking at, Justin Herbert's versus our secondary, wide receivers versus secondary, like maybe doing some things like that. So let's start in the trenches because I think that's where a lot of this game is going to be won. Offensive line for the Chargers versus this defensive front for the Steelers. Who you got in that matchup?
I mean, I hate to say it, but I think I might be taking the Chargers here. I mean,
Okay.
You got Joe Alt, who was, the Marvin Harrison of non-receivers in this draft class, right? He was like, to me personally, you had Caleb Williams, you had Marvin Harrison Jr., and then Joe Alt as the top three players in this class. Well, Williams seems to be the next terrible product of Chicago. Marvin Harrison's started doing his thing last week, and Joe Alt's done nothing but good. He made Max Crosby look like a little baby boy last week. That is terrifying. I love TJ very much, but TJ is damn near 31. So, I mean, we're sitting there saying, oh, he made Crosby look bad. I mean, TJ is the best defensive player in the world, so I don't worry too much. But it's one of those things that's very eye-opening for as good as Max Crosby is. With that, Rashawn Slater, I've thought very highly of Rashawn Slater since the second he came out of Northwestern in 2020. I've always been a Slater fan. He's a phenomenal left tackle. I think top 3 in this league. We can agree to disagree there. Zion Johnson, I believe, is a first rounder in 2021. Don't know much about that Sawyer kid at right guard. And then Bozeman's about the PFF has him as the 18th best center coming into the season. Say which one about that. Regardless of who I think has the advantage here, Trent, I think it will be a wonderful thing to watch. Their O-line versus our D-line. I think that will be absolute cinema. So
I did this a little bit on purpose because of, and I probably should have prefaced this right at the beginning. You quote a lot more PFF than I do. I think you're a bigger believer in PFF than I am. So what I decided to do this time is try to give everybody who's watching this like 2 different aspects of this. So I love that you quote PFF because I don't like them. So it gives people who are PFF listeners and lovers that side of things. I decided to go with some of the next gen stat stuff today from ESPN just to give a different perspective on how advanced stats look. And I looked up, you were talking about Max Crosby. He did have a sack in that game, 2 tackles and 3 assists. His average separation from the quarterback, 3.46 yards, which is the best on his team, which was pretty understandable. But yeah, from that, I would say you could probably say Joe Alt did a pretty good job on a guy that I think is one of the top edge rushers in the whole NFL.
Probably right at 5 or 6, yeah.
Yeah, that's something that you could definitely look at and say was a really good job on his part. So I'm going to do kind of what taking into consideration the Chargers have played, the Raiders, and the Panthers. I'm going to take some of what they've done with a grain of salt, and I'm not going to say anything bad about Joe Alt just because of what he did do with Max Crosby, but I'm not picking against the Steelers' defensive front until somebody shows me I should. Kind of like what we used to do with the Patriots. We hated the Patriots, but you just can't pick against that team until somebody shows you otherwise. And I think the way that, and the key for me, honestly, is freaking Larry Ogunjobi. We hated this dude going into the season, but the way he's played so far, if he has that type of a game again, and you get exactly what you expect out of Cam, you get exactly what you expect out of Keanu Benton. And I think this front can do some damage. And I'll go a little further into that when we break down some other parts of this as to why I think we're going to have an advantage there. But that's just something that I'm not going to pick against that group until somebody shows me they can manhandle this group. And I'm not going to see it very easy this season because I think they're that good. So,
I mean, yeah, they're by far the best defensive line in the National Football League, but great offense always beats great defense. I mean, Listen, I've been very high on the Chargers since probably about 2021, and I've stayed on the train. I know Justin Herbert's a hypothetical merchant and say what you want bullshit about blah blah blah, and this guy and that guy and the third guy. I don't know, man. It's just, I mean, TJ Watt kind of just disappeared last week. Larry Ogunjobi has his flaws, which we know. I wasn't all that impressed with Alex Highsmith. I thought our middle linebacker blitzing schematics were abysmal. Keanu Benton is the best player on this defensive line. And then Cam Hayward's 35 going against, I mean, I don't know, Trent. I understand where you're coming from completely. Like, I agree, man. I go with them until somebody tells me not, or proves it that we don't have to. But also, it's got to hit a point where we say, okay, this team is getting dragged by their feet by the defense. At what point does the defense kind of break down because of the fact that Pittsburgh's probably going to go 3 and out 65% of these drives? And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I mean, I can see that. I mean, that when we've had other defenses that were strong, they became that bend but don't break the 2 years prior with Kenny Pickett behind the center, because how many times did he go 3 and out and consecutively in games going 3 and out? So far we haven't seen that from this team. Now, obviously, the Chargers defense is going to bring something totally different than what we've seen from either Atlanta or especially Denver, because they are definitely a better defense than what we've seen so far. So can they continue to move the ball, move the sticks? I think it's going to come. So let's lead into this. So let's flip this. So let's look at our offensive line versus their defensive line and say, can we establish the run game with our offensive line and move the football? Do you think we have an advantage with our offensive line, assuming Broderick Jones is going to be the guy playing right tackle, versus their defensive front? Because I don't think the Chargers have a great front. They have 2 great edge rushers.
Poona Ford has really came in and proved his worth, man. I think Poona Ford's a really good football player at the defensive tackle position. They got some Obaniah kid and some Fox kid I don't know much about, but Poona Ford, I mean, I think the last few weeks he's graded out pretty highly via PFF. In matchups, obviously that's matchup based, so you're kind of, I mean, you're looking at Carolina. There's no matchup there, but you're looking at the Raiders. I mean, Andre James is a top 10 center in this league. You know, the Raiders have a really good center, and Poona Ford kind of pushed him on his ass, dominated him. So that's something to look out for. Which, by the way, I think is a beautiful matchup for Zach Frazier. I mean, I love the interior of this offensive line, especially when Sayamalo's there. Obviously, he's not. But to me, it's really about how well can Dan Moore do against Bosa/Mac, and how well can Broderick Jones do against Bosa/Mac. Obviously, like you said, they're 2 very, very, very good at their job edge rushers. And I think Trent, realistically, man, like this really could be the Fields running back type game. Where it's a lot of QB draw, QB power to the end, like just going in between the tackles to kind of eliminate the worry of Bosa and Mac, essentially taking them out of the game. And I think that's something that I'm really excited to look out for here.
Yeah, I've grown very comfortable with Zach Frazier and going up against somebody, and we haven't seen him against maybe a. Do you think Poona Ford's better than Grady Jarrett? Let me just start there.
I mean, no, probably not.
And we saw Zach Frazier hold his own against a guy like Grady Jarrett on the road. Now we're going to have him playing here at home, which is going to bring its own set of advantages, especially for a young offensive lineman, because you're not going to get that crowd noise that's going to be going crazy. And I think that's going to help the young offensive line. But Broderick Jones is going to be the concern, because I have a feeling LA is going to do whatever they can to put Joey Bosa versus Broderick Jones as many snaps as he possibly can. And they'd be stupid not to, especially after what we just saw transpire in the last game, right? I mean, he couldn't sustain anything in that drive. And yet they just didn't find a way to take advantage of him because he was only on the field 11 snaps. So that part is the part that concerns me the most. I think the Chargers, because of the edge rushers, are going to have the advantage on this as opposed to our young offensive line. Ford is a guy that I would be interested to see if they try to get away from Frazier and maybe line him up over top of a guy like Spencer Anderson to see if he can take advantage of that matchup. So I think if you're LA, you've got some options to try to win. I would not put him anywhere near James Daniels because Daniels is going to hold his own against a guy like Ford, I think.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that – I don't think we have enough pieces right now. And we really might see Dan Moore come back down to earth in this game a little bit, right? I mean, he's played phenomenal so far. There's nothing bad to say about him. He's played great. He's been one of – I mean, I saw him, to quote your PFF people, he's like 0.2 ahead of Penei Sewell right now in the PFF rating, which is insane, right? I mean, there's no way you're going to convince me Dan Moore is better than Penei Sewell, but he's in that conversation for PFF right now. So,
it's early.
Yeah, very early. How about tight ends versus our linebacker group? What do you think about that?
I mean, it's another one that kind of I'm kind of going to build off you with our defensive line. I'm taking our linebackers over pretty much anybody's tight end group unless it's Baltimore. It's really kind of that simple. There's really not much else to say. I mean, Patty Q's an all-pro last year. Landon Roberts was really good last year. Peyton Wilson's a phenomenal player who can run with anybody. I think that says all that I need to say.
Yeah, I can't see Hayden Hurst getting a lot of separation from that group.
No.
Landon Roberts can probably run stride for stride with Hayden Hurst. Not to discredit Hayden Hurst. He's been a fine tight end in the NFL, and I thought he had a pretty good year in Cincinnati, but I just don't – I don't see that guy running away from anybody, so to speak.
I don't either.
So let's flip this thing and let's look at our tight ends, which is primarily, of course, Pat Freiermuth is going to be the guy you're looking at there. He's going to be the probably only real relevant guy in the receiving conversation. Do you think we have any kind of an advantage there with Pat Freiermuth versus their linebacker core?
Well, I mean, and to kind of to add to what you said here, I mean, Michael Pruitt, the problem is with him being hurt right now is that Connor Hayward's going to take over his snap numbers. So you're looking at a Connor Hayward plays 30% of snaps. That's egregious, Trent, to say the least.
You don't think Rod Williams gets on the field?
Over the Hayward boy? No. No.
Okay.
I don't. I just think it was just because he got brought up because Michael Pruitt's probably his injury is a little bit more severe than we think. Because we already have 3 tight ends to begin with Darnell, Muth, and Hayward. That being said, though, I mean Denzel Perriman's a fine player. I agree, Flip. Denzel Perriman's a fine player. I've always liked Denzel Perriman. Obviously, Junior Colson being hurts them a little bit. I think,
especially with his speed, because he's a fast linebacker and a big guy.
He is. Yeah. And then you're gonna see. I think you're gonna see a lot of Derwin James in the box this week, just because of how much we run the ball. So I mean, I would consider him a linebacker this time around. Also, Alohi Gilman, the Notre Dame Fighting Irishman, he's also kind of excels in that center field spot like Minka. Obviously not on the same level, but player play style wise. So yeah, I mean, I guess we're kind of looking at Perriman and I guess James as a box backer. I mean, Khalil Mack on the edge. I don't want Pat Freiermuth blocking him by any means on run plays. Darnell Washington, I'm taking my chances though. It's not biased or anything. It's not me being, a homer. It's me just saying Darnell Washington's had a fantastic year blocking so far. And I think, with his the confidence, if you can give a 6'9", 270-pound tight end that hurdles linebackers that much confidence in the receiving game, he's going to start killing people before we know it. I'm really kind of waiting for that Darnell Washington. Okay, yeah. I'm really waiting for that Darnell Washington coming out party. And I think it might be this week. Khalil Mack's like 39 years old. Christ, he was born in the 1730s, man. Give me Darnell. Give me Darnell.
Oh, man. Listen, if Darnell starts tearing up in the passing game, then I'm just going to call the season because the Steelers have a chance to win it all. I can't see that one happening, but I'd be all in if it did. I think it's interesting because Darnell is, I think, and Flip, I'm so glad Flip is in here.
Yeah,
I think Darnell Washington's turned around this blocking of his quite a bit. I mean,
1000%. Yes.
last year he definitely struggled. You could see some flashes, but I think his one catch a game is probably all we're going to see out of the receiving side of him. I don't see him being a big part
Yeah.
of the offense. I mean, the game where Pat Freiermuth doesn't play is probably the only game he's going to see more than one target. I mean, especially if Roman Wilson gets healthy, you got to figure what very little of the target share that's been out there so far is going to be split between George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, and then maybe Roman Wilson's your third, or just throwing it to the running backs and Wilson gets sprinkled in there. I don't know, because this is a game where I actually think you could see a lot of the screen game being played, because like we just talked about, I think the Chargers defensive front's probably going to have an advantage over our offensive line. You've got to slow down those two pass rushers some way. The screen game's going to be one way, draw plays, and then like you said, this might be the game where we finally see the running side of Justin Fields like we saw in Chicago. So I don't think not that I don't think Pat Freiermuth is going to be a guy who gets targeted in this game, but I just think that this game is going to be so much about the running game that I don't even know if it matters if we have an advantage at tight end right now, because they're probably going to try to like draw a defense and at some point hit Pat Freiermuth behind the linebackers, but I don't know that this is a game where he's going to size up, 6 to 7 catches for 70 yards, if that makes sense.
I agree. No, I'm with you. I sat Freiermuth in fantasy, so.
Yeah, it's just, this is not a game that lends itself to passing, period. This game might be a game
Let alone
that's
Freiermuth.
like an hour and a half because everybody's going to be running the football. So how about on the outside? I think Johnston's a little. He really hasn't quite gotten his footing so far in the NFL. He's a guy who came out very talented out of TCU. Obviously, I think this is a Joey Porter matchup with him. How do you think maybe that kind of individual matchup between JPJ and Quentin Johnston lines up?
I mean, if JPJ doesn't dominate this kid, we riot. I mean, I look at Quentin Johnson as Kevin White 2.0. I know that's a hell of a name to bring out. I looked at him the whole draft process. I was like, okay, so I'm watching Kevin fucking White. Like, what are we really doing here? And then the Chargers of all teams, I knew it would be someone like the Chargers or the Vikings or the Ravens, just to go out and draft this kid at 21st overall. He's a nobody. He's a nothing buddy. I think Ladd McConkey's the best receiver on that roster, Josh Palmer being the second. And then with Palmer being out, that helps. Obviously, Porter is going to be alongside Quentin Johnson. Or, I mean, I can say alongside because I don't see Johnson creating any separation regardless. But I know you're going to kind of go into the whole like receivers versus corners on both sides matchup. I'm going to keep it short and sweet for you. I'm going to call it a healthy scratch. I think our receiving core is really that bad, and I think that Asante Samuel Jr. is a really good corner. Obviously, with the way that Pickens played against Terrell and Surtain, I don't worry about Pickens by any means. I just don't think we're going to really do a whole lot. Jelante Taylor's an okay player. Van Jefferson could get locked up by me, so I'm not worried about it. So I'm going to call it a healthy scratch just because I think their receiving core does not match up very well with our DBs. I think our DBs are way better. So between their receivers, their corners, our receivers, our corners, I'm just calling it a healthy scratch.
I'm trying to look. They don't even have. What would you think about this? I don't know who they would. I don't know who they would put in here, but would you think that for matchup purposes they would try to play Brendan Rice on the outside and leave Ladd McConkey in the slot against Beanie Bishop?
Is DJ Chark healthy? Because I know they have Chark as well, right?
He's on IR. I've got their depth chart pulled up here, and I don't know how accurate this was. I took a screenshot of it.
Did I miss Quentin Johnson's? Did I miss Quentin Johnson's like 2 6-yard TD catches? Okay, Flip. Okay. All right. Like
I think he had
he's not
yards. I'm trying to look here real quick because I
He's
think
nothing special,
yeah,
dude. He's
five receptions, 6 targets, 51 yards, and 2 touchdowns last week.
okay. Kevin White, nice work. He played one good game against the Carolina Panthers. Could we stop the dialogue, man? Like, could we just stop the dialogue? It's the Panthers, man. Anyway,
But
yeah,
do you honestly think a guy
it's
like
possible.
Brennan Wright
It's
could be pulled up
possible.
and because he's obviously a bigger, at least more physically built guy than a guy like Vlad
Yeah,
McConkey, and try to keep
yeah.
McConkey, who's so shifty in the slot, against a guy like Beanie Bishop, an undrafted guy who, even I'll be honest with you, as well as I think Deshaun Elliott's played, I don't know if he could go stride for stride with McConkey either.
I wouldn't want
Do you
that.
think, especially if Herbert ends up playing?
Well, I mean, realistically, Trent, we're going to look at a lot of zone anyway because we're both going to run the ball, run the hell out of the ball. So we're going to look at a lot of zone anyway. I don't see a whole lot of times where Beanie Bishop's like pressed up on Lad McConkey or whomever they put in the slot, regardless. I think it'll be a lot of zone here. I think it'll be a lot of Mel Kiper's kryptonite cover 2 here. So, I mean, I mean, maybe I guess it's kind of just like whatever we see in the first drive. But again, Trent, that's like I'm just not worried about the receivers versus RDBs and vice versa. I'm really just worried about I mean, dude, Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins very easily could run all over us, and obviously vice versa, we could very easily run all over them. So
let's dig into that a little bit. So I pulled up a couple things. I actually sent this to you and Flip in a private chat. So I checked out obviously the big game for J.K. Dobbins. I mean, he's had 2 pretty good games, but the second week against the Panthers, he had 131 yards, 17 carries, and a touchdown. 8 attempts, 77 yards, and his touchdown came off left tackle. So a lot of his damage is coming off.
Slater's that good.
But does Cam Hayward become a neutralizer in that and force them to try to relook at how they're doing things? Does Alex Highsmith, who I think is a little underrated in the run game, help neutralize some of that? This is a Patrick Queen game. We talked about Splashable.
Right.
Wednesday. This becomes the Patrick Queen game. He's got to.
I was just gonna say that. I mean, I think Alex Highsmith's phenomenal. Do I think Rashawn Slater's going to dominate him? Of course I do. Rashawn Slater's incredible. So obviously you're going to have Alex Highsmith probably getting pushed around a little bit. Cam Hayward, I mean, sure, if they want to run it towards Zion Johnson, Cam Hayward better be able to murder him. But yeah, I mean, like you said, Trent, you literally took the words out of my mouth. This is going to be a game where Patrick Queen, he's either that guy or he's not. I mean, he's going to learn how to fucking tackle this week. He really will. Peyton Wilson, buddy. If you can play effectively this game and stay healthy, because God knows you're an injury fucking magnet. If those two and Landon Roberts can do their work and really make a lot of plays at the line of scrimmage or around, I'm taking our defense over anybody. Because yeah, the way that Dobbins been running the ball, especially on to Slater and Johnson's side, I think he's been incredible. So
I'll tell you what, I'm going to say it right now. I think Landon Roberts, if we win, I think Landon Roberts becomes the star of the defense this game. This is that kind of game that Baltimore, that Cleveland, that smash mouth, in your face football type of game that Landon Roberts thrives on. And he's going to be the guy who shuts a lot of this down. If we stop the run, and I'm saying that's an if, because so far no one else has done it. But if we stop the run,
okay, Oakland and Carolina.
Yeah, I mean I get it, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, Oakland or not Oakland, Vegas and Carolina hasn't stopped them. I'm sure. My high school team could run on Oakland and Carolina. Come on. But no, I mean, no, Landon Roberts, man, he got bitched really badly last year against Arizona, the game I went to. James Conner ran all over us. Granted, Michael Walker and Miles Jack were also playing at that time. I don't know, man. I think this game is where Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson are either going to sack up or they're not.
Yeah.
Dude, flip, bro. Like,
I think it is a massive word, but listen, this run game's been good so far, so I don't know how you could. I don't think anybody can say, we're definitely going to stop the run against them. I mean, I think we have a really good chance to, because I just love our front seven, but
yeah,
it's still an if, because until somebody shows they can stop J.K. Dobbins, who I love. He's been injury prone. He's had a terrible career so far as a pro, but when that dude's healthy, he's one of the better backs. He's electric. He can be electric.
all
Dude,
right,
I'm telling you,
take the scarlet and gray glasses off, dude. The dude's been in the league for 5 years and he's played fucking 13 games. I mean, come on, like no, he's not all that good. He's not all that good. No, and again, he played Oakland or Vegas and Carolina. Like, dude, like with Derek Brown being injured, I don't know if I can name a single player on Carolina's defensive line now that Brian Burns is gone. I don't know. I'm just not all that impressed. This is one of those things for me, Trent. I'm not going to take it seriously. I kind of have to see it to believe it. You know, if Dobbins in LA comes out and just runs all over us, I'll start panicking and throwing in the towel. But like for right now, I'm sitting there saying, okay, put it into context. They played Vegas and Carolina. I could run for 100 yards on Carolina. You know what I'm saying? Like I
agree with that. What about I mean, from our standpoint, what about like Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren? How you feeling about them in this game?
I mean, the same way you're taking our defensive line over anybody, I'm taking our running backs. Like I love our running backs, dude. I think they're phenomenal. If Broderick Jones stops holding on to people, and God forbid Spencer Anderson can stick on a 1-to-1 block for more than a second and a third, I think we're in a great spot. But yeah, like we've both mentioned it prior, and you even said like we have a remarkably young rookie based offensive line. It's really just a matter of how well can they block for Najee and Warren. This is going to be a game for Najee. Like, hey man, you're probably not going to get all that great of looks at holes. So either find the sliver and run through it, or get off my field. It's really going to be one of those games for Najee. And for Warren, it's going to be like, dude, don't fumble this away like he did Baltimore in Week 18 last year. Like each of them kind of have something going for him right now. And I think it will be a Najee game. I'm seeing a lot of dialogue and discourse about like, oh, don't start Najee and blah, blah, blah bullshit. But no, really, like Najee, like, right, dude, Trent, bro. Yeah, I understand. I know. I'm seeing it. I can't believe the discourse around the sport anymore. But yeah, no, I mean, for Najee, it's like I said, I'll repeat myself, dude, you're not going to get a bunch of great looks. So either find the sliver and bully your ass through it, or get the hell off my field and don't come back in. Straight up. Like that is straight up how I'm feeling.
I don't know how this is going to. Oh, this is on the screen pretty well. It looks longer on my screen than it is. I actually think that this is the type of game that lends well to Najee in a lot of ways in the every down carries. And I think this is a game where Jalen's going to get a great yard per carry and a great stat line, because, like I said, to slow down a pass rush, you have to run draw plays. He excels in that area.
He does. He does.
I think that's an opportunity for Jalen to get some big yardage, some big splash plays. And I'll say this: if Herbert plays, we are going to need splash plays. I don't care if that dude's 100% or not, he's going to be able to make throws. And you're going to need some splash plays that don't get called back. And that can come from the run game or the pass game. And it's felt like a couple of weeks now. Of course, we're only 2 weeks into the season, but there's been times where like Najee is like that close to breaking one. And like Jalen will squirt through somewhere and he's like that close to breaking one. Like to get a 20-yard gain. I'm not talking like going to the house, but like getting like a 20-yard carry gain, which is, the stats wise, they call it a big play, you know what I mean? Splash play type thing. So this could be the game where we see that, where we catch them off guard a little bit in certain situations. And I'm interested to see how Jalen factors into this, but I really think this is going to be kind of a Najee ground and pound. If Herbert doesn't play, Najee's touching the ball 25 times. I don't think
he should. He should have last week anyway. But this is, for me, Trent, this is a huge game for Arthur Smith. I mean, I'm looking at the keys to victory here. The biggest offensive key for me, I mean, we might as well move into it. Like the biggest offensive key for me, Arthur Smith, buddy, you can't fuck up today. Like this is not the game to get cute and try to play keep away and do your, Tomlin living in his fears type thing that I mentioned on Wednesday. No, like both of them, they really need to sack up. And that's, again, Trent, I don't want to sound like a pessimist here or anything or being negative, but the things I would do for Justin Herbert to come out and just tear us up would be phenomenal. That way we could see what a real Arthur Smith offense looks like. That way we could see what Tomlin looks like when he's not, playing against 9 backup quarterbacks in a season. Like, this is a huge test for us, and it's going into the year back in whenever the schedule came out in July. I was really excited for this game because I'm like, dude, this defense against Herbert and then Fields/Russ against this defense. Like, I really do want this to be kind of, everybody's talking about how like this game's going to be like 13-10. Like, I could legitimately see a world, Trent, where this is a 35-31 football game. Like, I can actually see a world where that happens. And I really hope it does. I hope Herbert throws for 345 yards, 6 touchdowns, and no picks, just so I can see legitimately what Fields, Arthur Smith, Najee, and this offensive line look like.
I think if Herbert plays, you might see some of the handcuffs come off of Justin Fields in this offense. Finally,
better,
and you're going to see, for better or worse, what Justin really is made of. Because right now it's been a lot of safe plays, safe checkdowns with just deep shots thrown in there, where he's just done exactly what you hope to do in a deep shot. You put it to where Pickens, and it's been Pickens every time, let's just be honest, but you put the ball where Pickens is going to get it or no one's going to get it. And that's really what he's done well so far. We've not seen everything kind of unfold where Justin has to read the field and win the game. That has not been what he's had to do. He's been protect the ball, be safe, let's roll out left, have one tight end come across the middle of the field, dump it to that tight end, or, hey, you just happen to have one of the best receivers in the NFL. We're just going to let you have a nice safe throw to him on a breaking route outside. Or we've not put him in harm's way. And I feel like if Herbert plays, this is going to be where we actually get to finally evaluate Fields. And I do think we see a lot more designed run for Justin too, because I think this is going to be where they want to really control the clock and utilize his legs. So I think the way they utilize Justin would be one of the keys. Now, if Herbert doesn't play, Fields may not throw the ball. Period. I mean, maybe 20.
Yeah. 20, dude. He threw like 21 last week. Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I agree. And like, dude, it's like, the reason I want Herbert to play and for him to tear us up so bad is it's because, like, if nobody's going to do it within the first couple weeks, what do you think's going to happen against Baltimore, Cincinnati, Kansas City, Philadelphia, Dallas, whomever the hell you want to play late in the year in that gauntlet part of the schedule? Like, I just really want to see it now. So the Jets, oh God, Rodgers played a gorgeous game last night. But you know what I'm saying? Like, how are we going to beat some of these monster teams if we're just going to do the Tomlin, hey, I'm bullshit, I'm terrified of everything, and then the Arthur Smith just give it to Najee on dive plays all day? You're not going to beat any of those big dogs doing that. So I really do want to see a test like now.
You need it before the bye week, because after the bye week, there's no easy games. So
and you need it before Dallas. If you want to have a chance to beat Dallas, you need to see an actual legitimate team before that. You're not just going to walk into Dallas and be like, okay, now we're going to put up 30 after averaging 13 a game. You're not going to do that. Dallas is going to put 46 on
you. Yeah. Flips in rare mode tonight. I love it. I'll say this, like, I was more afraid of this game if Justin Herbert would have been healthy than I am of Dallas, which sounds odd and very awful. But here's why. I think Dallas, if you can establish the run early and often and you don't get behind, you can dominate Dallas. We saw that last year. The Texans really dominated.
Who's going to guard CeeDee Lamb?
Well, you've got to put Joey on him, and you got to have probably help over the top with Minkah Fitzpatrick.
You're going to put Joey Porter on that guy?
You have to. He's your best corner. Whether I mean for
I,
better or
I
worse.
understand. I understand. But like, dude,
I
that's
don't know. I'm
like
not saying he's going to
six.
be like locking him down, but I'm just saying you're going to hope he doesn't grab him and draw a ton of penalties and
That's
just put
yeah. That's
Minka over top.
That's what I was gonna get into, man. Like putting Joey Porter pressed on CeeDee Lamb, dude. You're asking for 6 holdings, 2 DPIs, 110 yards, and 2 tutties. Like I love PZ Jr. with my whole heart, but that's just what's gonna happen. So I don't know, man. I know that's way down the line, and we are on LA right now, but I'm
You,
way more terrified of Dallas, dude.
that's okay. Since you went down this road, let's do this. Do you think CeeDee Lamb is a better in and out of the route runner than Jamar Chase? Because he locks down
Yes,
Chase. Do you
dude.
think?
Yes,
Hmm,
dude. Yes, bro. Like the whole
I think he's a
dude.
lot more physical. CeeDee Lamb is one of the top receivers in the NFL. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Jamar Chase is better than CeeDee Lamb. I actually think CeeDee's better. But I think if you're talking about press cover corner going up against one of those two guys, I think Chase is the quicker, faster, tougher to kind of lock down. I think CeeDee, the problem CeeDee would give Joey Porter as opposed to Chase is CeeDee's bigger and more physical, and we saw that against DK Metcalf. That became a big problem for Joey.
Trent, I think we're like Jamar Chase is huge.
He's
Jamar Chase is huge. Like he's all of he's a big he's built guy. Like
mm,
I think the whole discourse around Jamar Chase is like, oh, he had a really good rookie year and he made a touchdown catch against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. Like I just like CeeDee Lamb, just the constant production. Like he just Jamar Chase has 10 catches for 97 yards in 2 games on the season against a washed up Chiefs secondary and a really bad Patriots secondary. I mean, like it. I don't. I like Jamar Chase and I think he's probably in that top 5 conversation. But dude, like there's nobody in this league that's on the same planet as Jefferson, Tyreek, and CeeDee. Nobody in this league is on their planet, in their stratosphere. Like it's, I think between them and then you got like Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, Amon Ra, Ayuk, if you want to put him there, Devontae, Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, whatever. Like those 3, and then everybody else down here. Like that's just kind of how I think of it. It's like the quarterbacks, like Mahomes, drop 3 tiers, Allen, drop 3 tiers, Love, Stroud, Herbert, Rodgers. You know what I'm saying? That's
yeah.
I don't know. That's just kind of how that's my personal opinion.
Good Lord, here we go. Flip's just all over it tonight.
Dude, I'm so serious. Dude, no, Flip. I'm so serious when I tell you, I think Deontay Johnson would draw 7 flags against you. I'm so serious. Like Deontay Johnson, as good of an in and out route runner as he is, would probably draw 7 against Porter. Probably.
So let's get back to our keys here to victory. So what we kind of went way off the map there for a minute. So who else do you got for your offensive keys to victory here?
Nobody.
Justin Fields or bust?
Justin Fields or
Najee
nobody
Harris?
else. Nope. Nope. I know what Najee can do. I've seen it for 3 years. I know exactly what Najee can do. I think he plays his very best games against the best teams. You see him play his best against Baltimore, against Cleveland, against Cincinnati, against a couple good NFC teams last year, like Seattle, who was better than most people believed. I I don't worry about Najee. I think he plays his best games against the best teams. I think it's like you said, Trent. You said it perfectly. Justin Fields or bust. If Fields sucks, get me out. If he plays good, better not let me talk to you after that game, man. I'll have some nasty agendas to push if Fields plays well.
I think oddly enough, obviously, I mean George Pickens is such an easy choice, but I'm going to say it
It's
and
just
preface it
it's
this
like the
way.
saturated choice.
I think that Jim Harbaugh is going to be so dead set on stopping the run because he knows that's the only way he feels like we're going to win this game is that we need those flash plays
Might be right.
from George Pickens to count to loosen them back up because obviously Samuel's a guy they're probably going to feel pretty comfortable with. Like you said earlier, James is probably playing in the box a lot more in this game, and hopefully that allows a little bit of one-on-one. to take some shots downfield to George Pickens, and we're going to need him to do. I'm not trying to minimize his stat line because it was not good last game, but let's be honest, he affected that game way, way more than his stat line shows.
Yeah,
and I feel like we need his stat game and that effect to be in this game as well, because I just really think that's just going to be a big part of whether or not we win, because they can just load up in the box and just slow down the run enough to make us go 3 and out enough times. They may feel like they can wear down our defense.
And I wouldn't blame them for thinking that.
Mm-hmm. So I think George, even though he's the easy, safe pick, I think they're going to need him more in this game than what we've needed in the past, just because they're going to need somebody to get off of this run game.
Well, my honorable mention is going to be Roman Wilson. I mean, Roman Wilson, he's a 3rd-round draft pick. He's finally getting the healthy scratch. I don't think it's going to take more than a couple of drives for them to be like, dude, there's no way this guy is worse than Jefferson, Calvin Austin, Scotty Miller. I like Scotty Miller. I think he should be our punt returner 1,000%. But it's like he's just like Roman Wilson's going to be a better player than all 3 of them probably combined. So my question is kind of like for you, maybe Trent, is like, how long do you think it'll be till Tomlin actually, gets out of his ass and kind of just like plays the rookie Roman Wilson, knowing he's probably going to be better off the rip than Van, Scotty, Calvin Austin, etc.?
So I don't know if you follow Cavalli or not, but he's put out, I think, 7 snaps for Roman Wilson. But we've also seen from Mike Tomlin in the past to where if you find a hot hand, he will tend to ride that hot hand. He's done it with Jalen. He's done it with Najee multiple times throughout the last couple of seasons now. And I think if Roman Wilson steps on the field and he starts sneaking in behind defenses and converting 3rd downs, then maybe that game plan kind of gets thrown out the window and you start seeing him playing more and more and more as the game goes on, just to try to open things up a little bit for this passing game and get them out of the box a little bit. So he's a guy as shifty as he is, as quick as he is in and out of breaks. If he's one-on-one and you get him in motion, he can beat anybody they're going to have in that slot corner coverage. Would you agree?
Yeah.
I
love Roman. I'm a huge Roman fan, and Roman was like the only pick that Flip didn't complain about in this year's draft. I truly I am a Roman Wilson fan. I really want him to get like significant snaps moving forward now that he's healthy. Like I went into the season and I'm going to stick with it saying Roman Wilson's going to be this wide receiver 2 on this team. I know he's not supposed to be. He's supposed to be a slot receiver, but at the point at the point that we are at with Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin, we have no choice. Roman Wilson's going to have to suck it up and play the outside this year, I think.
I don't know if they'll actually do this, but there's a chance that if we start seeing this game go on and the Chargers are just loading up in the box, I would dead serious. It's going to sound stupid, but I would dead serious see a 3 wide receiver formation that consists of George Pickens, Calvin Austin, and Roman Wilson, and just say 2 go balls on the outside and just let Wilson hit the seam route and just dare the Chargers to stop somebody from running downfield. They would have to get to the quarterback.
Fields has the arm.
Just let it rip.
He has the arm to do it. Yeah, dude, I'd be down.
That defense off a little bit. So I don't know if they'll actually do that. That was just kind of something that more or less popped in my head as we were kind of going through this. So let's jump to the defensive side of the ball here. What are some of the keys defensively that you see that maybe we need to do in order to kind of slow down this Chargers offense?
I hate to be repetitive here, but how I kind of said it was Justin Fields or bust on the offense. Patrick Queen / Peyton Will, middle linebacker unit or bust. Whether it be Queen, Wilson, Roberts, one of them needs to strap up and strap up, go hit somebody, be at the line of scrimmage. Like Flip said, dude, it's the sad reality. Patrick Queenie's been disappointing so far. He really has. He's been finding coverage, sure, but dude, he's missed more tackles than I've walked steps this week. Like it's just the case, and he's been egregious in the run game. He graded out 28.2 week 1, 35.5 fucking week 2. That's like 32 total. He's been bad. So I think this is really the game. Like it's obviously a tester for the offense, but it's going to be a tester for guys like Queen Wilson Roberts. I don't worry about what Joey Porter can do against Quentin Johnson. I don't worry about what this defensive line can do against anybody. I don't worry about Dante Jackson anymore. Deshaun Elliott, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Like I don't worry about that. I'm really worried about the linebacker unit. I truly am.
I'll say this too. I should have brought this up earlier, but that fullback's no joke in LA. That dude's
he lines up at the tight end spot a little bit sometimes too, though.
Yeah, but at 300 pounds, that's a guy that could probably manhandle some guys. And this is where I feel like you're going to need your linebackers to be very decisive, and they're going to need to hit the holes quickly, and they're going to need to be efficient in tackling. Because if somebody gets picked up and that big man's come bullet through there with the running back coming behind him, there's going to be some business decisions made. So yeah. I don't know. That's going to be an interesting piece of the puzzle, because we've seen another Harbaugh like a big fullback there in Baltimore too. So he used him pretty effectively for a number of years, and I think Jim's going to be looking to do the same thing here. And our linebacker group's going to have to be sharp. And Flip, if you have that stat, I think he put up there. It was on pace. I think Patrick Queen was on pace for 34, 39 missed tackles this year. 34. Yeah. I totally agree with this too. I think we're going to see a lot of that. I think the flow of the game is going to determine a lot of how this goes. We're going to want to run a lot of 12, 13 personnel primarily.
Yeah, but if we're playing from behind and Herbert's tearing us up, that's where that comes into play again. Like if Herbert's tearing us up, man, 11, 10 personnel, do it, Like it's going to hit that point at some point. Yep. At some point in the year, it's going to hit a point where we can't bullshit around with 13 or 12. Like it's going to hit a point in the year where we just have to throw out 10 and 11 and say, you guys go to work, Justin Fields, let it loose. And I do want it to be this game. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, I hope if nothing
else.
And
listen, AB, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Like that's a terrible. AB was 179 pounds, 181 pounds actually. Like Roman Wilson's 186 at the same size, I think actually an inch taller. And listen, I'm not comparing anybody to AB. That's my GOAT. But like, let's be perfectly clear and say AB was dominating guys like Xavier Rhodes, Brandon Browner, Patrick Peterson, all fairly large corners. Stephon Gilmore. I don't see the rationale behind his size. I think it's just a terrible argument.
Yeah, the only thing I can say with Roman Wilson is playing on the outside. I've said early on, I didn't see it just because he's never done it. And it would be a little bit of an adjustment. You have to see that he can beat press coverage first before you're going to feel good about putting him on the outside. And that's really the only thing for me that I've said about him is I think that's something that you transition him into if you feel like he's going to be that type of guy from year 1 to year 2. I don't think you make that transition for a guy who was only a slot receiver throughout his entire college career as a rookie in the NFL. I think that just sets a kid up for failure. So maybe by necessity we have to. I mean, we're going to see how this plays out. But when you've got 28 yards combined from your receiving core outside of George Pickens, I don't know. I mean, you're hanging on until the trade deadline, I think, is what you're looking to do, and hope somebody becomes a seller early for a guy you want. I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. I just don't see Roman moving outside unless it's by absolute necessity. That's just my opinion on it. Any other keys to the game defensively that you have, Colin?
No, I mean, not really.
Yeah, it's pretty much that linebacker group.
It really is. Like I think me and you have both been very clear all offseason, multiple times throughout the season even. Like we're confident. We know what this D-line can do. They're the best in the league. This DB unit has surprised us greatly, sure, but they're also really good. We know what they can do. I think, Deshaun Elliott is Minkah Fitzpatrick's yin to his yang. They're each other's yin to yang. Right, right. They're Bonnie and Clyde. It's awesome. It is awesome. And Dante Jackson, from where I'm standing right here, we won that damn trade with Carolina. That's all I'm saying. So
so far, and I get it. I totally agree with Flip right now. I mean, it's
I understand Flip, but running fucking step by step with Marvin Mims Jr., who's a 4.37 guy down the seam, is nothing slight of greatness. So relax.
Yeah, and we right now I feel like we've both been pretty critical of Patrick Queen, saying that he needs to be better in this game. So I'm not cheerleading Patrick Queen by any means. This is his game. I think this is the game he proves he's a Steeler linebacker, and that he's going to earn that contract. And if he doesn't, questions are going to start flying.
Well, and like I said Wednesday, we ask a lot out of the linebacker unit. So all three of them, man, like you want to be a part of. I mean,
Yep.
This is the game to do it.
So let's get into some game predictions a little bit here. So who do you have winning? I'm not going to ask for player predictions this time. Who do you have winning the game? What do you think the score might be?
I mean, I still am going to go Pittsburgh here. The general consensus is like that 16-13. I saw like a 9-8. I saw like a 10-5. I think I am going to go Pittsburgh here because I just think we're the better team in general. And so I think, let's see, I saw Faribault go 17-13. I kind of liked it. I'm going to go Pittsburgh 20-16.
20-16. Okay.
Going to go Pittsburgh 2016.
I think the home crowd helps. I think, obviously, whether or not Herbert plays, I don't think his mobility is going to be there. He's a very mobile quarterback. I don't think he has that this game, even if he does play. I still think that both teams are going to be dead set on running the ball probably 35 times. If they can run, they'll run it 100 times if they can. So I think this is going to be low scoring. I think it's going to be 13-10. I think Pittsburgh pulls it out, but I think it's primarily a defensive battle.
Okay. I like it.
So any other final thoughts or anything you want to throw in there? We just passed that hour mark up here a minute ago.
So you're saying Najee, like 24 carries, 117 yards, and a touchdown?
I think Najee has a big game. I do.
I hope so.
I think the.
I mean, it's about time.
Yeah, I think the offensive
line. Did you see that stat that they played? Did you see that stat during the Broncos game when it was like Najee Harrison's September average was like 46 yards a game? Did you see that when it went by month? Oh, dude, it was great. Yeah. It went by month. It was like from September to October, it was like 46, 52, 77, 84. Like just a crazy jump from like October to the end of the year. It was a hilarious stat. I'll share it with you if I see it. But Najee's off to his best start of his career through 2 games in September alone. Granted, 2 games in September alone, but he's off to his best start. So. Yeah, I mean, I do some pretty gross things for like a 23 carry, 119 yard, a touchdown. Great by me. So, yep.
I'd be all for it. I think he and Jalen are going to be a big focal point of this offense
coming
up Sunday because they're going to have to slow down the pass rushers. And Fields, another thing I didn't mention, Fields needs to make sure he does not hold the ball. This is a game where your internal clock has to move forward just a little bit because these 2 guys are going to come get you. And if Jones and Moore, if Moore comes back down to reality like I think he's going to, it's not going to be hold the ball for 3.5, 4 seconds. It's going to be start moving about 2 seconds. You better be ready to get rid of the ball. Philip, we love you, buddy. I can't wait. I cannot wait until he joins us. And
dude,
3 of us on the show.
Dude, I can't wait till like
pandemonium.
I can't wait till like one of these years the Steelers like somehow go to the AFC Championship and he's like, "Damn it! Well, I predicted 5-12."
Listen, dude, the day Flip comes on this show, I might have to break out like my Bruce Buffer impersonation. And now, get the show started off. It's gonna be absolute pandemonium. I love it. I love it.
Dude, it's so funny.
All right, buddy. Well, I tell you what, I appreciate you coming back on. I hope our predictions come right. This is going to be a game that's going to be really, really interesting. I think it's going to pretty much boil down to whether or not Justin Herbert plays. Because if he
Please
plays,
win.
then I feel like we're going to be in trouble if he plays.
Just please win. Just win.
There he goes.
There he is.
Stirring that pot right on.
Oh, I'm sure.
38.
We'll get back to we'll get back to you on that.
I love that we don't score anything, but we get 2 safeties out of that scenario.
Hey, as long as Keanu Benton gets them both, I'm not saying nothing.
We can't get a sack or a touchdown or nothing, but we can get 2 safeties. We can't get a field goal, but 2 safeties. I love it. All right. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you coming on. We'll have to touch base shortly after the game on Sunday so we can get another recap show going.
All right, my man. It was a pleasure, my friend. Thank you again.
Appreciate you coming back on. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too, man.